The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.
So we are back, episode 59 of the Silly Goose Gang Podcast, and we're delighted to be joined by 2020 America's Strongest Man, Anthony Diehl. So Anthony, first of all, thank you very much for joining today. And second of all, public apology from me to both of you, because I got the dates messed up. We and Chris tried to do this yesterday, as Chris posted on our Silly Goose Gang Instagram, called me a fucking asshole, quite rightly. So again, Anthony, thank you for
a ginger asshole.
A ginger asshole, you're right, a ginger asshole. And you slid it back by an hour as well. So thank you very much for being extremely accommodating and joining us today, mate.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so 585-pound front squat.
I'm still feeling that one, man. 600 is the ultimate goal. I'm actually kind of mad I didn't go for it. I think it was there.
Yeah, when Ali sent me the video and he said, "Did you see Anthony's front squat?" So he sent me the link and holy shit, it did look like it looked like there was quite a bit more there. Like 600 was probably there. It looked quite comfortable.
So what actually happened is I walked into the gym that day and I was feeling pretty good, but we have an awesome strongman gym, strongman powerlifting. And there's like 8 racks along the wall, and all of them were taken except the mono lift. So I went and I was like, all right, I'll front squat the mono lift. And they had a squat bar in there, right? So it's like 55 pounds, a little bit thicker diameter. And all of those things matter, right? When you're going for something max effort. And I worked up to 565 and I placed my arms, I do cross arm like this. And when I went down, the bar was just big enough that like, there's a little divot here in my delts where a regular power bar can just sit real nice. This bar was just big enough that it started to slide forward, and I caught the nastiest bicep cramp trying to keep it up. And I started to roll forward in my upper back, but the speed was super fast. So somebody cleared out the rack. So I moved all the way down to the other rack, loaded it up with 585 on a power bar because I thought, this is going to be a lot easier. I think that really gnarly 565 with kind of bad technique in my upper back compromised me a little bit, but like my legs weren't sore at all. Like leg power, quad power was there all day. There was definitely some rounding of my upper back with it. So I think 600's there. I tried 600 6 weeks ago and barely missed it. Barely missed it. Poor jump selection, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not hitting it this last time, but 585, it moved pretty well, so I was really happy with that, especially given the circumstances. But I don't know if you saw the caption on my Instagram, but I was like, look, if you don't believe in God, just front squat 585 because you're going to meet him.
So I was saying this to Ali, so Ali knows, I'm fairly strong, and I've maxed 140 kilos, which will be close to, maybe just under 300, 295 pounds, and that was, like 95, 97% probably. And I'm fairly strong. So when you see somebody doing 585 and it looks like 90%, you think, fucking hell, it makes sense. And because like, if people are listening and don't really know, it's such a different like everybody back squats, right? But not a lot of people front squat. So it doesn't make sense when when that seems shocking. Like go try front squat. Like it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. It's funny. I mean, obviously I can back squat a hell of a lot more than I can front squat, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the way I'm built, my levers or whatnot, I'm really comfortable in a front squat position. I think it's probably the more upright torso. I don't get any like torque in my low back. And then with strongman, so much of what we do is front loaded. And so actually I have an interesting story how I got so good at front squatting and got into front squatting was 4 years ago. I was being a dumbass and ego lifting in the gym like we all do. And I had 605 on a safety bar and a big PR. I was going to hit it for a double, and I hit it for a double. And the second rep moved pretty well. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go for a triple, get a little greedy. Well, dumbass me didn't have the safety bar set at all. And I went down, and that thing pushed me forward. And now all of a sudden, it's a 600-pound good morning, which you can't escape. And you know, the safety bar has those handles that come down like this, so you can't dump it back. So I literally tried to push it over my head as hard as I could. But the one handle, I managed to escape it on this side. The handle got caught under my armpit, and when it flipped this arm around, and I just heard tearing. I thought my rotator.
Oh.
But what had happened was, thankfully, went and got it looked at. Ended up being my AC joint. So for probably 4-5 months, I couldn't bench, I couldn't press in this position, and I couldn't back squat for sure. So all I could do was front squat. I'd never front squatted in my life. So I just basically started front squatting 3 days a week, light, medium, heavy. And then all of my pressing, I just did neutral grip. So I'd use like a Swiss bar because I could press that way. And I got into incline log pressing because on an incline log, the range of motion was a lot shorter, but I could also overload. So I was still getting a nice pressing stimulus while letting this AC joint heal up. And my previous overhead press max to that point was like, push press was like 260. And day one, after 6 months of not push pressing, in this position, I hit 320. And I think that I worked up to it. And I think that one of the things was doing so much front squatting, I got really comfortable in this front position and was able to transfer a ton of force. But I think that's where started my love for front squatting. Ironically, was when I got injured on the safety bar. I had nothing else to do, and my coach would program front squats. Here's another variation: front squats with a cambered bar. Okay. That's going to swing all over the fucking place. And those are something else. Like paused, beltless, cambered bar front squats are another animal. Like if I did 585 on that bar, 500 would feel the same on a cambered bar because as you're going down, the thing's just swinging back and forth, and you're doing everything you can to stay upright. So it's one of my favorite exercises out there. Like front squats will always be one of my favorite movements.
It's one of my least favorite. This sucks so bad. But yeah, do you I know you're saying you want to go for 600, but do you ever worry? If you end up focusing on a number rather than the progression of getting overall stronger, I just need to do this. Is that a concern? You worry about that?
Well, I think I see what you're saying, and I think that I'm a much smarter lifter than I am, now than I was when I was younger, which is why I didn't go for 6. Looking back, I'm watching the video, and I'm like, man, I should have just thrown it on there. But in that moment, in that night, what I was thinking was, hey, that moved well, that moved great. I'm healthy and still in one piece, and I have 2 shows coming up. So I'm not risking it. A gym lift is cool, but I'd rather do well at competitions. Yeah. So I still want that number just because it's a personal goal of mine, but it'll happen when it happens. I'm not going to force that to happen. Yeah. So I have 2 shows coming up here in 3 weeks. I leave for Siberia, Russia.
Ooh.
Yeah. I looked the weather yesterday. It's like 3 below 0. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't have clothing worthy of this. It's part of a team competition, so I'll be going over there with Travis Ortmeyer, Rob Oberst, Les Claiborne, a guy named Ty Cotton, and then myself. I'll be the smallest guy by 120 pounds. So
yeah, it's we've talked about this before in the podcast. It's one of the things I always wanted to be a strongman. I always loved watching World's Strongest Man, when I was a kid. Just not big enough, just not physically big enough. So I love watching these things. Obviously we don't know Robert Oberst, but he always seems like a super cool guy. So I think that'd be pretty cool to go do some shows with him. I know. Watched the. Did you see what was it called? The Strongest Man in History.
Strongest Man in History. Yeah, but
so cool. When they did one in Scotland, it was super cool. So yeah, that'd be good fun.
My goal is I want to get over to Scotland. I want to get to Ireland. I want to lift all the manhood stones all around Iceland, the Husafell stone. So that's kind of like a bucket list item for me to get over there and kind of just tour, all over and lift. I want the Husafell. That's probably my number one goal because I really want to just Husafell for a spin. And,
yeah.
Yeah, we've had a few people on, haven't we, that have been stone lifters that have either came across. We had Bert Soren had been talking about it. We also had, and I believe you've been on his podcast, Mark Valenti.
Yes.
Mark was on talking about it, and we've had a few British guys, and they've said, the stone lifting, and it's crazy that it's just literally in a field, and you just need to go and knock on a door, and say to them, "Is it okay if I go and lift that stone in your field?" And they're like, "Yeah, go and lift it," and then you go back and sign the little book to say that you lifted it, which is it's a pretty cool thing that's kind of unique to this sort of, as you say, kind of Scotland, Ireland, the Faroes, the Iceland, that kind of little triangle. Almost a square of the islands that go heavily into that stone lifting.
They respect strength so much. American culture doesn't respect strength as much. We're more of a team sports oriented, baseball, football, basketball, things like that, which is fine. But I think probably because strength was so rooted, in way of life back then. The stronger you were, the better you could provide for your family as a seafaring people. If you have a strong back, you're a strong man. You can sail. You can, lift these things and make better wages. So it's deeply rooted in culture. So that's kind of one of the reasons too. I want to go over there and just kind of experience that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to do for sure. I think we spoke to, it would have been Dan Strauss, who's a BJJ black belt. And he was talking about doing a lot of the stones in Scotland, and I'd travel quite a lot for work. I was like, "Fuck, man, I need to stop some of these places at time and just go. I'm going to do it. Yeah. I might as well. I'm here. It just looks like good fun." But yeah. So what's how do you go from where you are now to being, World's Strongest Man? How or going to the World's Strongest Man competition? Is there any way for it? Is there any way that are you planning on that? Is that at all? Or?
No, I plan on going to World's Strongest Man. No, to be frank with you, I don't think I have the size for that. Okay. I walk around at 260, and I compete. So I compete as a middleweight pro. So I cut weight and cut down to 231.
Okay.
Right? So. But I walk around like 260, me eating everything in sight. I compete as a heavyweight at the Arnold, and the heaviest I got was like 276 for like 2 days. And my body said, "This is ridiculous," and dropped right back down. So it's not impossible though. I mean, you saw 2 years ago, Martins Licis, even Alexei Novikov this past year. Both guys. Martins is only 6'2", 6'3". Alexei is 6'1". I'm 6 foot. So it is possible, but I also look at my age compared to those guys and just what it would take in terms of my body, and with my family and my kids. And I'm just thinking, there's a lot of risk there. I kind of enjoy where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
So did you win America's Strongest Man? Did you say 231?
Yeah.
And you pulled, correct me if I'm wrong here, I was doing a bit of digging beforehand, but you pulled 675 pounds on the deadlift for 12 reps at 231 pound body weight.
Yeah. Now, granted, I just pulled 725 on Saturday for 15.
That's so stupid.
So, well, you got to think that's what we all have to weigh in at. All of us do that. I mean, there were 12 of us, 15 of us, and all of us walk around between 260 and 270. And then what we'll do is 6 to 8 weeks out, we'll start dieting down. Okay. I don't like to be any heavier than 250 10 days out from a competition. And then I'll water load and manipulate salt and water and carbs. But yeah, the night before weigh-ins for America's Strongest Man, we had to weigh in at 7 a.m. at 231.4 is the cutoff. And literally 12 hours earlier, at like 7 p.m., I was 243. So I spent pretty much all night, like 15 minutes in the sauna, 5 minutes out, 15 minutes in, 5 minutes out, just sweating it out. Just felt like an absolute bag of dicks walking into the weigh-ins, man. Just miserable. And then literally all of us just start pounding Pedialyte. We have 24 hours, and we went immediately. It got like IV bags in each arm, just refilling us. And then it's a strategic eat, very specific foods, like really bland carbs, lots of rice and things like that. Just eat all day. Salt and rice, minimal protein, low fat, right? Because fat slows digestion down. We don't have time for that, frankly. We only have 24 hours to refill those glycogen stores. And somebody my size can hold anywhere between 700 to 1,000 grams of carbohydrate in muscle and liver alone. So, consuming 1,000 grams of carbs a day is hard for anybody, especially when you've been kind of dehydrated all week long and cutting down. So, that night we all went out and did our best to put this sushi business out of, the sushi and we did ungodly amounts of sushi. And I woke up the next morning, literally 24 hours later at 262.
I just want, just to clarify, you said 1,000 grams of protein, just for carbs. For anyone that's not paying attention, that's 1 kilogram. that's 1 kilogram of carbs.
Yeah.
It's significant.
Yeah, it's a lot. One of the hardest things. So I didn't get to do it last year. 2019, I did the Keltman Iron Distance Triathlon, and I failed at that. I failed like 100 miles into the bike ride. And one of the hardest things to do is to consume enough food. I've fucked up food. So we're supposed to be going back this year, but I don't know what's going to happen. But as you've just touched on, like the food side of it is so critical, and trying to force enough food in per hour to fuel that is so hard. It just becomes like you're literally having to force food that you would normally go, oh, it's a biscuit.
And you always tell this when you go to any amateur show. So I'm getting ready in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. I'm going to judge a competition here in our home gym, and you can always tell who the amateurs are because they'll show up, they'll weigh in, and immediately they're just like double fisting some donuts. And in my head, I'm thinking, your performance is going to be dog shit tomorrow. Like the suffering and the misery of the water cut and sweating, that's mentally taxing. But the hardest part of the entire process is that you have a small window of time from weigh-in to competition. You have 24 hours. Don't fuck it up. You replenish those glycogen stores, and you think you've been spending the last 10 days drinking 2, sometimes 3 gallons of water, distilled water. So hydrochloric acid in your stomach's completely diluted. So not only do you have to replenish all of these glycogen stores, you're doing it on less than potent stomach acid, right? So that's why you stick to really bland foods and minimal fats, because otherwise you're just going to be sitting on the toilet the entire time, not absorbing anything you eat. So you can really screw it up. That's what, to be perfectly honest with you, it's one of the reasons why I get IVs when I compete now. It's just because an IV helps cover a multitude of sins.
Yeah. I've also had the misfortune of having to sit in a sauna in a sweatsuit trying to make weight for a boxing match, an amateur boxing match before, and I had to take off, I think it was like 4.2 kilos, so 8.5 pounds. And that's one of the worst experiences of your life. Is like, I had to go, there was a rule change at the national championships, and you had to weigh in 2 days in a row. They didn't tell me until later on, or I didn't hear till later on. I had already drank and ate all my food and went, oh yeah, you have to weigh in tomorrow. It's like, oh shit. So I went home, it's like, yeah, I'm going to take 4.9. It's just go find a sauna. Fuck, man. It's awful.
Yeah. As I do that, I was listening to Joe Rogan was interviewing what's his name, world famous wrestler. His Instagram
Jordan Burroughs.
Yes, Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that. He was talking about how you have to weigh in like each day. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So what had happened at the Scottish National Championships was you had always weighed in Saturday morning. So I competed at 91 kilos. And if you weighed in Saturday morning, whether you fought Saturday and Sunday or only Sunday, once you had weighed in Saturday, you were done. So this year in particular, it was in line with the world governing body's rules, where you had to weigh in both days. So I didn't compete on the Saturday; I had to fight on the Sunday. And then like 5 o'clock at night, they were like, yeah, you're on, there was a cut off for the fights. I was like about 26 and they stopped at 25. I was like, you have to fight tomorrow. And also you have to make weight. I was like, holy shit. Jumped straight in the car, went home, went in the scales, 95.2. And it was like, I need to take 4.2 kilos off overnight. sweatsuit, sauna, in the sauna for an hour, came home, jumped on the scales, yep, take another, and then I had to go back out, run with the sweatsuit on, no water, get up in the morning, and I was like 92, so I still needed a kilo, and I jumped sweatsuit back on, went for another run, and I was running going, if I'm not 91 kilos when I get home, I'm just not going, that's it. Because, your joints start to hurt, everything hurts, it's horrific.
I can't do it. I'll sit in the sauna. My favorite way to do it is if you have, my problem is that most bathtubs aren't big enough where I can fully submerge. But if you can fully submerge, man, 2 cups of Epsom salt and a cup of rubbing alcohol will open your pores. I can lose 4 pounds in an hour.
Yeah.
So, that way. But I'm willing to sit and suffer, but I can't stand. Like, I'll see some dudes in there in the sauna suit, in the sauna, like doing push-ups. I'm like, how are you alive? I'm barely like, just watching you. But
like, it's not a good idea. Like, getting punched in the head after doing that is fucking. It's not the way to do it at all.
I was with a buddy 3 years ago before I went pro. We were both cutting weight together, and he made weight, but he had to be rushed to the ER because he went into rhabdo.
Oh God!
And they pumped him full of all these fluids and medications. Well, they released him, and he came back to the competition the next day and won.
Well, you know what? Ironically, that time when I had to do that weight cut overnight, that was the best performance I ever put in. And I don't know if it's because you know that you have to dig deep because you think you're already hindered. That was the best performance of my career by a long way.
It's so weird you say this. I was talking with a buddy in the gym the other day. Whenever I go into the gym and I intend to set PRs, I usually have a shit performance. And there's days where I feel, so for example, yesterday I had to do a 2 a day, and I hate doing a 2 a day, especially because my training is intense right now. And so I got to the gym early in the morning. My coach program was 6:15 on Hatfield squats for 3 sets of 20. So I'm already like not able to walk when I'm done. And then I'm in this room building my wife's business where I'm working on the walls, painting, doing a bunch of other stuff. Then when that got done, I was like, well, I'm here with my schedule. I'm just going to go ahead and do day 2, which was, which was a pressing day. And I felt like I could have just laid down on the floor and went to sleep. And then I hit rep PRs last night on stuff that's, super heavy for me. And it's like, I think there is something to that. I've hit so many PRs when I've had a cold. I've been coughing a little bit today. I've had a cold the last couple of days. Maybe some sinus congestion, just not feeling the best. And I think there is something to that because when you walk into the gym sometime with this swagger of I'm going to kick ass and do this, I feel like sometimes you get cocky and lazy. And then, like last night, I realized, man, I'm dog tired. I just got to dig down and do this. And I'm really hyper focused on technique because I know that, I'm not full of piss and vinegar. I just want to go to bed, so it's like, I'm going to have to just rely on technique and just grind through it. And then they end up with the best performances. So
I know personally when I've hit definitely deadlift PR and possibly my squat PR, they were both days where there was no intention to do it. The intention was to go to like 90%, and then you do 90%. You go, holy shit, have I got this loaded properly? And then you go, fuck, I'm just going to go. So I did 240 deadlift once, kilos. I didn't intend to do it. There was no intention to do it. Went in, like you're saying, you kind of go, I'm not sure today. And then you pull 200 and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just try 210 and then 220 and then 230. In fact, I think my record at that point was 230. So I went, let me try 231. And I pulled 231, super easy. Go, fuck it, let's get 240 on. Right. And pulled it. It's those days, exactly what you've just said. Like, it's not quite sure, not feeling it. And the days when you go in, you go, I'm superhuman. I'm the greatest human being that's ever lived. Now you go, you can't fucking lift anything. You're like,
yeah, I know.
Fucking asshole.
My coach wants me to try and hit a PR this week, and I try to not let that get in my head. Like, wants me to hit a PR on stones, and I'm like, all right, I'm just trying to focus. I'm like, it's sick in my head. I'm like, man, I hope I get sick or something. So I walk in.
Give you that. To go.
Are you talking? Is that Atlas stones? To take it, yeah. that's one of the things, you know, obviously we both follow the Stoltman brothers, obviously, because they're Scottish, and I get them confused. So it's Tom.
Tom's
that did
Albatross with a 7 S.
Yeah, he's the Stones. He's the Stones guy, right? Yeah. So he did, what was it, 286, and he thinks he can go over 300 kilos. Stone, like what the fuck? So yeah, we had the gym that I used to train in. There was 120 kilo Atlas stone sitting. Now 120 kilos, you know, to pick up off the floor, deadlift or you know whatever you're doing, would be, you know, where you would start off or where I would start to warm up. I was looking at this after I finished. I'm like, let me try and move this 120 kilo Atlas stone, and then it's like, what the fuck is this bolted to the ground? What the fuck is this? And it's just going, I don't understand. This will not move. It's such a hard thing.
It is such a hard thing. It's the way I train them. A lot of my clients, you know, they don't have strongman gyms near them, so maybe they go once a month or something. And I will train RDLs, like heavy RDLs, you know, stiff leg deadlifts. I actually will do a lot of cable crossovers to really squeeze the inner pec, so you're going to get that grip tight. And basically, and then front squat. A front squat, I think, is huge when it comes to loading because of the extension and the front loaded. And that's why I program a lot of pause front squats. And when I tell my clients to pause, I'm not talking one of these like Joker pauses where they barely stop. I'll often write in there 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And I want you to sit in the hole, because when you see people roll those stones in and sit down, it could be a solid 3 to 7 seconds while they're getting comfortable, getting tight, putting their arms in the right position, take that big breath and then triple extend. So pause front squats and RDLs, I think, are the best way to train stones if you don't have access to them. But yeah, the mechanics are totally different.
Weird, like super weird. Like, you know, 120 kilos, you know, would pick up off the ground, you know, any day of the week. And just try to lift that. It's just like, what the fuck is this? Like, doesn't make. So when somebody says, somebody's lifted a 286 kilo stone, you go, how?
Yeah. Before the Stoltman brothers came around, they were probably still young teenagers, barely even into strongman. Travis Ortmeyer was the Stone King, Texas Stone King, and he's still ridiculous. I was out in Reno, Nevada, training with him in July, and he hadn't touched stones at that point in close to 6 years, or 4 years, something like that. So, you know, he has a really cool story, by the way, too. He'd be somebody to chat with.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just in, you know, he's been through a lot of hardship in his life, and you know, made some choices, went through some really hard things, but you know, he in the last he got out of strongman entirely and really focused on fixing himself and dealing with his own demons, and now he's back, and he's coming back, and so I trained stones with him, and he hadn't lifted stones in like 4 years or something stupid, and day one of lifting stones just loads 500 like it's nothing. Like, where do you freaks exist? Like, how? Like, how is it?
Yeah.
You know, just rips it off the ground.
I hate those people. You know, but I mean, I know, you know, so I've said this a few times. I'm like the world's most average person. I'm kind of average at I do a lot of things, but I'm not good at anything. You know, so even when I do running, and it's, you know, I'm watching people's you know, whatever it is, mile time, a half marathon time, whatever it is, 10K time, and I'm going, I don't understand how you can move at this pace. Like, this is when I think I've done something really impressive. So in lockdown last year, I did a mile. I did a mile in 5 minutes 53, and I'm going, you know, so I'm like 100 kilos, right? I'm going, that's quick, and then I see other people, and they're doing like 4 minute 50s, and I'm going,
it's true.
I don't understand.
Like, no muscle mass on them. They're probably too, right? I mean, you're a thick dude. You do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So again, we do loads of things. I do a lot of things. I'm just not particularly good at anything. I'm just kind of average at everything. But
feel better if you can come race me.
What's funny is
matter. I started jiu-jitsu about 8 weeks ago.
Oh yeah. But I've seen that on Instagram. You've been doing some. It's amazing. You know, for sure, man. When you come to Scotland to lift some stones, you know, chuck your gi in, man. Let's roll for sure. Let's do that.
It's showing me how immobile I am. Oh my god, like, it's disastrous. But I honestly think it's helping my lifting because even though I'm still about as immobile as a piece of steel, like it's getting better. So my lifts are getting better. But yeah, it's just funny because like I'm trying to, go into like S guard. I'm like, I can't get into this position. Like, this
makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Like it's such a and what I would say, and you probably find this yourself is, and I found it coming from. So I was quite a good amateur boxer. I boxed for Scotland, so I wasn't bad. Was never world class, but I was okay. And going from being, you might find this being like good at something to going into a new sport where you are dog shit. You are terrible. You don't know anything. You don't know how to tie. You don't know how to tie a belt. You don't know when somebody says, "Okay, this is guard." You go, I don't. What the fuck does that mean? Yeah. It's so good for you mentally because it grounds you again. You go, fuck. I'm over here thinking I'm America's strongest man, and I have no fucking idea. Like, you think you're strong, and then some of these guys grab your grips, and you go, "What the fuck?"
Oh, yeah. I know, dude. Yes, like it's been very good for me, and I realize like you can't have an ego, and I'm trying to be careful too because I have these shows coming up, so I can't afford, to be having a strained elbow because I refuse to tap when someone's got me in an arm bar or something else like this. So like I tap early and tap often. But yeah, it's super humbling, which is fine with me. Like I enjoy the new challenge, and I still love lifting. I love strongman, and I always will. But it's kind of my world and my wheelhouse. Like nothing scares me anymore. That world. But I walk in, and I'm like, I just got collar choked by a 180-pound female.
yeah. We've said that so much. Me and Chris both trained jiu-jitsu, and when the gyms were open back in Scotland, we used to get young guys would come along. Like I'm 42, Chris is 30. What are you now, Chris? 37?
36.
36, apologies. And we get these young guys coming in 22, 23, 24 years old, the full sleeve tats, swaggering in like they're Conor McGregor. And there was a girl that trained. She'd been training about 4.5 years. One of our early blue belts, a girl called Tanner. And she'd say, "Do you want to roll?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, I'll roll with you." And literally, she would tie them in knots. She'd have them tap in. And the next week, she would say to them, "Do you want to roll?" And they'd be like, No, I'm not. Nah, no, because they couldn't handle. Shoulders a bit tight because they couldn't handle. They can't handle, as you say, getting tapped out by a girl. Whereas, those and there's guys that we train with, 160-pound really technical purple belts that just do things that physics doesn't make sense at that point. Like they're using the force. They're ninjas. I don't know what they're using.
Can I also just point out when he's talking about people not tapping? The last time I rolled with Ali, that I had him in a triangle and he would not tap, and he almost crossed the Rainbow Bridge.
just for more for yourself, but triangles is my game. That's my wheelhouse because I'm 6'3" and like about 190, so I'm all limbs. Yeah, and triangles are my thing. And Chris, as you say, Chris is a thick dude, and he's nowhere near 6'3". And he caught me in it clean, and I was like, I'm not going to tap to it. I'll go out because, like you say, you tap to arm bars because things can get snapped. If it's a choke, you just go unconscious. And I could hear the gym noise getting quieter. The dark was cut. I could hear like Odin on the horn calling across that bridge. And I was like, I can't tap. And I literally, just as I was about to go out, my elbow moved just enough that I was like, managed to escape. And I literally had to say to him, just tap me because I can't move. Like I had no vision. I couldn't see. I couldn't hear. I was so far gone.
3 times already in the last 6 weeks, just because, like you said, I'll tap on an arm bar, but I kind of wanted to know what it felt like. But then also, I'm stubborn and competitive too. And what I found, like collar chokes suck, especially in gi because of the rash. I'm like, a little bitch when it comes down, like, oh, you hurt my skin. But like, someone gets me like a guillotine or like a rear naked or something like that, and I'm like, it just feels like pressure, and I'm just stubborn, so I'm just trying everything I can do to get out of this. And then I rolled against this guy who. Come to find out, he fought in the UFC for like 3 years, and he's a brown belt. and he's just toying with me. He was, he's a great guy, and it was really funny because he caught me in this guillotine, and I just would not tap. And then the next thing I know, he and the instructor Nick are just giggling as they like help me up off the floor because I'm like, I came to, and I'm like, well, that was neat.
It's that's something. I will always fight a choke. Arm bars, leg locks. Yeah, I need these things to function. But a choke is kind of more fun.
As Megan Anderson fight.
Oh my god!
Oh yes,
that was terrifying. That was terrifying.
Especially because and I have a very, very limited, knowledge of jiu-jitsu. My personality, I've wanted to get into jiu-jitsu for probably 10 years. And the reason I didn't is because of where I was at in strongman and the level of which I was constantly competing. My brother-in-law is a black belt, and he was always trying to push me.
Okay.
And we would spar together. He would show me some things. And like I said, I wanted to, but I also knew I had to check myself because I'm the type of person where if I take up a hobby, like I'm going to be the best at that thing that I could possibly be. Like I don't just casually do things. So I have to be careful with what hobbies I take up. And my daughter recently started jiu-jitsu. So it's kind of like the thing that her and I do together. So granted, my working knowledge is limited, but I was watching somebody break it down. I think it was Renner Gracie who was breaking it down. Like, first off, Megan looked like a deer in the headlights when she was trying to strike with her. But when she was at the ground, she made a number of super intelligent defensive moves. It just didn't matter because Nunes was like 5 steps ahead of her every way. It was unreal.
Yeah. There's levels. There's levels to everything, man. It's I posted on Facebook on Sunday morning after watching the fight. I was like, Amanda Nunes shouldn't be allowed to fight women. Like she's terrifying. She like, is. I was saying this to one of my friends who trains jiu-jitsu as well, and he was commenting, and it was just like, if Amanda Nunes came up to you and said, "I'm taking your girlfriend home tonight," you'd be like, "Just take her. Take her. I'm not going to argue with you."
What do you do? Yeah. Somebody commented, there was a tweet going around, it was like, petition to make Amanda Nunes fight men.
She'd probably win. She is terrifying. She's a terrifying human being. It's always quite difficult to gauge with women's MMA because it just isn't at the level of men. So there isn't the depth of talent. But if you think, it came up on I think the UFC posted it recently on Instagram, and it was a rerun of Misha Tate and Ronda Rousey. I think the first time that when Ronda knocked her out super early, and you watch the level of it then. What would that be? 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it was shit. It was terrible compared to now, where you watch, Zhilei. What's she called? The Chinese girl. She's an incredible fighter. Joanna Jędrzejczyk's amazing. You look at Amanda. It's came on so much now. Like those girls now would have no chance, whereas they were like at the top then. So it's improving all the time. So it's kind of hard to gauge, but Amanda Nunes is so far ahead of everybody else. Like how good, how good is Megan Anderson? Like she's there, but like there isn't a huge amount of there's not really a good measuring stick, right? Because it's just not that big a pool of talent. So, but Amanda's incredible. She's terrifying.
One thing that I think is true, kind of in all sports right now, especially more individual sports like strength sports and combat sports and things like that, is that in the last decade, the bar on everything has raised. And I think honestly, it's probably largely due to social media and just simple fact, like the dissemination of scientific principles of how to train, how to eat for training, all those things. You look at strongman, for example, and you watch 1977 World's Strongest Man, the first year they had it. None of these guys were training for strongman. They were just big dudes. Half like one guy's a football player, the other guy's a rugby player, the other dude was just like a local mechanic who was freakishly big. And they all show up and they're like, hey, let's see who can move with this truck engine the farthest, right? And even up into 1986, World's Strongest Man won with a 282-pound log press and a 350 stone load when Magnus Vermagnuson loaded, Magnus Vermagnuson loaded a 353-pound stone to 42 inches. And he dropped it like twice, and the crowd goes nuts when he finally loads it. And I'm thinking, 350, we do that for like sets of 10.
Yeah.
And it's not that they weren't strong back then. They were freakishly strong back then. It's just that they didn't have the internet. They didn't have access to scientific. They were all going to the gym, training like Arnold and Franco, getting big, getting strong. And then slowly as things advanced and you have social media and, hey, this person put out a template for peaking. And now you have a plethora of resources. You want to get started strongman. Yeah. You're worlds ahead of where people were 30 years ago,
Yeah. I remember watching Mike Tyson was talking. This is a while ago. It was when the Klitschko brothers were dominating heavyweight boxing, and somebody said, how do you think you would have gotten against the Klitschko brothers, Mike? And he said, it's a stupid question. He said, because athletes don't want to admit it, but everybody gets better through time. They're just science gets better, the training methods get better, the recovery methods get better. I dare say the supplements are taken get better. And he said, Joe Louis couldn't have competed, with Muhammad Ali, and Mike Tyson couldn't compete with just the things move, like as you're saying. It's
always raising. Yeah,
it's always raising. It's just incredible to watch, especially if you've been interested in like that. Like I say, I watched Strongman. Magnus von Magnusson was the first person I can really remember watching when I was a kid. And there's been several now, like comparisons in strength, like what he was doing to what they're doing now, and it's like, he wouldn't he wouldn't qualify, like he just wouldn't with those lifts. Like I'm sure if you took him and put him in now, like he probably would, but like those lifts, he just wouldn't be there. Like
his work ethic and intensity, and he was born now. Sure, he'd be elite, but his lifts, the simple fact is, Magnus from Magnusson would not qualify for a 105. He wouldn't have qualified for America's Strongest Man at 105. Yeah. That's just a simple fact. And that's not knocking him. That's just, if anything, extolling the fact that we're getting damn good with science and nutrition. And it's exciting because I wonder, I've only been in the sport for 8 years competitively. Yeah. And when I started, like if you could pull a 600-pound deadlift as a 105K lifter, you were like, damn, that guy is cock strong. Like, whoa. And if you pulled 700, you were a god. And if you pulled 800, well, that was just unheard of. Now, I have a 740 deadlift from the floor. That's my weak point. I'm not a very good deadlifter. It's okay. Like, most 105K pros are knocking on 800's door from the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the bar of strength is just unreal. And that's in a decade time span. So I wonder in 2030, what are we going to be doing?
Yeah. So I remember. I was always been interested in lifting weights. Never competed in anything, but I've always liked it. And I can remember, having conversations with people, whatever it would be, 10 years ago, and we were talking about deadlift. And I've never competed, so I've never really had to get much stronger. But I think it's one of those lifts where if I really tried, I could probably get quite strong at it. But, having these conversations with people and they say, if you can do 3 times body weight in deadlift, that's elite world class. And now it isn't. Like now people are lifting easily 3.5. Like you're doing just on those numbers. You must be doing 3.5, nearly 4, like 3.5 at least.
Well, from the floor, I'm doing basically 3 times body weight. Now, the floor is my weak point for whatever reason. From like a height, it's just my leverages. From any sort of, a lot of strongman competitions, we'll pull from 13 inches, 18 inches, whatever the case may be. From 18 inches, I've pulled 1,000 for 6 from 18, just because a really upright torso and my upper back is stronger. So,
But that was always the thing that I was told. 3 times body weight was like elite, but it's now like the elite are now doing 4. Like Steffi Cohen was like fucking over 4 times body weight. It's like, what the fuck? So what was considered 3 times body weight 10 years ago was like, holy shit, that's like top level, and now it isn't. Like now it's like 4 times. Like what the fuck?
They do a show at the end of April called Clash on the Coast, and it's a 105K pro show. It's a pro-am, and my buddy Nick Canby is a fellow pro. He got second at America's Strongest Man, and I have a ton of respect for Nick. He's one of the strongest, freakiest human beings I know. To be perfectly honest with you, if Nick and I were to compete 10 times, he'd beat me 9 out of 10. Like, I just had a day at ASM this past year. It was just my and weekend, and I went off. You know, and he made a few technical errors that he doesn't hardly ever make in his life, and he was still on my heels. I beat him, I think, by 4 points. Like, he's a freak. Anyways, the world record for the 105K axle clean and press is up for grabs, and it's currently 178 kilos. Fixed axle clean and press, which fixed axle is really hard because the implement doesn't spin.
Yeah, it doesn't spin.
So it's a disaster to clean. This MFer just clean and pressed a 190 kilo fixed axle in training. Effortless, no elbow sleeves, split jerks, just super fast and efficient. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
so he's going to take that by a long shot.
That's, again, like, these numbers are all meaningless to people who have never tried to put weight above their head.
Yeah.
And if you have, you go, fucking it. Like, I think my maximum ever push press, I think there's a little bit more there, but I think it was 105 kilos. But to get something that doesn't spin to your chest, and then it's a clean, but it's not really like an Olympic clean.
Sure.
It's a kind of moving your axle and doing this kind of weird thing. That's insane.
Take it up there. But what the crazier part that you're mentioning, the numbers that you're mentioning are great numbers. Like most men, if you're deadlifting, 500 pounds, and I think they said 400 pounds. If a man can deadlift 400 pounds, you're in the top 1% of all men in the world. Now, for those of us who are interested in weightlifting, we're like, but the reality is, like, that just shows you how freakish some of these people are getting, because
the
numbers you're putting up are great numbers. So there's nothing wrong with those numbers. It's just the people that do this for like full time. Like, what the hell is going on?
It's kind of like you're saying, it's what you're comparing it to as well, isn't it? As we're saying, me and Chris are only been training jiu-jitsu, 3-4 years maybe?
Maybe
a little bit longer, 5 years. I'm losing track of what year we're into. But, and we're just scratching the surface, we're blue belts. So we're scratching the surface. And as you say, there's boys out there that can easily manhandle us and throw us about and choke us and do all the rest of it.
Like you're saying, your brother-in-law's a black belt. Like, trying to explain to somebody the feeling how hopeless you are when you roll with a black belt for the first time is like, it just doesn't make it, like, he's not even trying, he's just taking the piss out of me. And there's trying to explain to somebody there is nothing, like, you're a strong man, there's nothing, you can't stop what's happening. It's just like,
and in fact, a lot of times, and you guys would know this too, I found that when I try to resist the most, it makes it worse because they use my energy against me.
Yeah.
I tried to push one direction and pull. Well, all they do is take advantage of that, get me off balance, and now I'm in a totally. I'm like, oh well, look, now he's got my back, and I'm extra.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing you're saying as well there, Anthony, talking about like people that don't lift, don't get the numbers, and if you're in that world, you think it's not that great. And Chris has said this multiple times in this podcast, and you'll probably appreciate this as well, as the amount of guys that think they can fight that have never ever had a fight in their life. And 20 seconds in, if you've got them pinned on the ground, you don't even have to throw a punch. You can just pin them down.
Right.
And they'll just gas out, just fighting to try, like you're saying, push and pulling, and you're like, yeah, I'll just let you do, you go that way, I'll go this way, I'll adjust. Gassing out inside of 20 seconds. With, number one, the adrenaline dump in a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they've never ever been in that situation. Guys don't know, but everyone thinks they can fight, just like as we've said, everyone thinks they're strong, everyone thinks they can run fast, everyone thinks they're good at fucking. They're not normally very good at any of them.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Obviously, us three are the exceptions to the rule. We'll just put it out there so it's on the internet.
I have to validate.
The sad thing is for me, Anthony, is I know I can fight and I can run reasonably fast. So, ladies, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but
well, I can't run, dude. I rolled with the guy last Wednesday. I'm gonna roll with him tomorrow too. They just started a class at 6:00 in the morning. It's a gi class, and last week was the first time, and I just think people didn't know about it. So I was the only one that showed up, which I loved because it was like one-on-one instruction. This guy, he's 135 pounds soaking wet. He's a brown belt, right?
Yeah.
So he's forgotten more than I'll ever know. And so but naturally he and I go to roll, and obviously strength does matter to a degree because I have him by like 120 pounds, right? And so, but what was amazing to me was, even though he never submitted me, I just spent the entire 3 5-minute rounds trying not to die.
Yeah.
Like I got to the end of it, and I'm just hacking up my lung. Now, it was really hilarious. At one point, he got me into a triangle, but he just couldn't. Well, he got me into an arm bar at one point, and he's only 135 pounds. I literally curled him towards me.
Yeah.
But at one point, he's got me by a triangle, and I'm starting to choke, but I'm like, dude, I lift kettlebells bigger than you. I stood up with him and just dropped him. But it was crazy to me because, like, I mean, I would have figured, okay, he's a brown belt, but I've got like 120 pounds on him. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This was the rules of jiu-jitsu. If this was on the street, that dude would have wrecked me.
The thing is, we've said in a bar, if you and that guy that you're talking about are stood in a bar, 99% of humans are swinging at the other dude and not you.
Right.
Because you're 6 foot, you're 260, you're jacked, damn, and beard, and I'm keeping away from you. Whereas the guys that know, I guarantee that boy's got a bit of a cauliflower ear, a bit of the G-bird. And then the people that know go, nah, I'm watching out for the wee guy, 135 pound with the cauliflower ears. The big dude, I'll keep an eye on him if he starts swinging. But see that little assassin beside him, that's the one I'm worried about.
Oh, there was a video 2 weeks ago. There was a guy here at Ohio State. The quarterback at Ohio State got in some trouble because he started.
Yeah, I seen it. Yeah.
And I was watching that video and I was like, he is an idiot because the dude that he was pushing, he was a little dude, but you could see his ears were fucked up. And I was like, don't do that. I'm like, you're about to get housed. And sure enough, man.
What happened to that guy? Was it like did anything happen to that guy? Was it, like, has he been kicked out of the university? Like, it's for a guy in that world, like at university and on the football team, I imagine that's going to be pretty horribly embarrassing to get publicly fucked up by somebody you picked a fight on.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But guys and ego, and then you mix a little alcohol in, it's a disaster. Guaranteed, especially some girl too.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you're the quarterback of the Buckeyes, you know what I mean? That's like that's up there, Div 1, Ohio State.
Pound him.
yeah. That I seen that video. It got shared so far, so wide. It's one of those. I watched it probably 10 times and more, going, he still gets fucked up every time you watch it. He still gets fucked up. It's so funny. Those are my favourite videos to watch. I can lose hours. I live alone. I'm single because nobody loves me. So I can have hours to lose watching these stupid videos. It's you always go down this rabbit hole on YouTube and watching these kind of fights. When it's some little unsuspecting guy and he wrecks some guy who's brilliant. I'll be like, oh, that's my favourite thing in the world, is watching these little guys beat up these jacked up guys. It's hilarious. It's so funny. But yeah, what's do you have plans to do some competitions, jiu-jitsu?
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not the type of person who can do anything halfway. I'm trying to play it really smart right now because, like I said, I've got Russia in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That I've got this other competition. So most of the time, like, I'm going to go to class tomorrow and I'll roll with Ken. But I don't roll a ton. I'll tap early. Like, I just want to make sure I'm healthy. Like I said, to this point, like, I'm only 2 months in. So I don't know a ton, but I would say it's helped my strength training. Like, it's great cardio. It's great flexibility. I've found, I know this is going to sound goofy because a lot of people, if they're only doing jiu-jitsu, probably feel super sore. I've found there's days where, like, I get really sore because I just deadlifted a ridiculous amount of weight for whatever. I go to jiu-jitsu and I actually feel better when I'm done because, you're just getting that blood flowing, moving around and not being stiff. So to this point, it's actually helped my strongman. Now, this summer, I do plan to step up how many days a week I train. And definitely want to compete at some point. I just have to be strategic because I'm still doing strongman. But the nice thing now about being a pro is I don't have to qualify for stuff anymore. So I can do way fewer shows, which is actually great just because, like you said, things are getting heavier. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
If I can take more time off in between and focus on other things like this, just kind of maintain my strength and then peak up and down for competition. So, yeah, I absolutely will compete at some point, probably this fall. Late summer, fall.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always one thing that I would always say, and I've always said this to to everybody. So like I know some guys who are serious into whatever sport it is. Mostly I know a lot of fighters, so mostly into that. But I've always thought it's good to have something completely different away, because when you're rolling, you're not thinking about tomorrow's deadlifting good mornings that you're doing. You're not thinking about that, because you're thinking about, how am I not going to get triangled by this little fucking brown belt? So it takes it off your mind. So it gives you like a proper ability to. And then when you go home, you're then thinking, if I just put my hand there, could he have choked me? Could I, if I did this, if I popped my hips out this way, could I have escaped that? And then you're not thinking about the lifting thing. So it kind of relaxes you a lot more about it. So I've always thought it's good for people to have, if you're doing a sport at a good level, have something on the side for some fun. As long as you're not, as long as you're smart enough to not get, tap. Like, don't hurt yourself, fucking hell. Yeah. As long as you're smart enough, it's way better.
Yeah, tap early, tap off. Let me ask you guys this, because you guys have been doing this a while. So, obviously, I'm only 8 weeks in. So I go in and we learn things. We'll drill, certain sweeps and arm bars and triangles and different things. But I'm at a place where, I guess my question is, I know a bunch of individual moves, but I find when I roll, like all that shit goes out the window, because I'm just used to, we're drilling, so you stand here and I do this and now I sweep you, right? But that's never how the fight goes. That's the point, is it's always unexpected. So you have to adjust on the fly. At what point do you feel like how far in were you when you were like, oh, I'm getting comfortable and I'm starting to string movements together to actually make a game? Because like right now, my game is very defensive and just like, don't get submitted and escape these things. I rarely go in the offense. I submitted one guy so far in 8 weeks, only because it was a very easy and obvious collar choke, and I was bigger. But that wasn't even my goal. I wasn't even going for the collar choke. I found myself there and it was easy, right? Like, so that makes sense.
I think if I remember rightly, I think I was about a year before I started to put pieces together. It takes a very, very long time before you start to really flow. Before you start going, if I do this, because it's even when you think, even when even when if you, whatever you're talking about, like, it sounds really easy when I'm not at the minute. This is a good example of at the minute when I'm deadlifting, for some reason, I'm not snapping my hips through quickly. I'm just not pushing my hips through, and I'm not getting my hips through. Now, every time I go into I've got a little gym outside. Every time I go out, I go, fucking remember to pop your hips through. But when I'm getting up, once I get up to 8%, to heavy stuff, I'm not doing it. And it sounds so easy, right? And it's the same with jiu-jitsu. It's like, I know all these pieces go, but it takes a very long time to figure this little path out.
I'm okay with that time commit, but you're absolutely right. It's a good illustration, because I can sit there and watch 100 log press videos and break everything down from, his lats aren't activated, his teres major is tight because he's doing this, and this is drifting, and his toes need to be pointed out. When he dips, his knees are going over his midfoot instead of out of his pinky toe. And I can see all these things, and if I try to dump all those cues onto a novice lifter, they're just gonna be like,
Well, that's what I found in terms of my time, and similar to Chris. I'd probably say about 12, 18. And I'm quite similar to you still, even, Anthony. I'm quite a defensive player. I tend to defend without attacking. But one thing I found useful that might be useful for you, and I know Chris kind of did this to a bit of an extent, is I decided to focus on one move and kind of go, right, every roll I'm going to shoot for, arm bar, a collar choke, a bow and arrow, whatever it might be. And I'm just going to try and catch that and look for the opening. Totally. And then just spend, 4 or 5 months just drilling it and trying to catch it live. Because as you say, it's so different to drilling it with a semi-passive partner compared to when someone's going, right, slap, bump, let's go live. Right, so if you can focus on, what I found was useful was just focusing on one submission and working that position, and just shoot it, and eventually you'll start catching it regularly to the point that you go, right, let's try and add another piece of the puzzle on. So I'm getting good. So now guys are defending that well, but because they now defend that well, does it open up something on the other side?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they say it takes 100 repetitions of anything to kind of really truly build a habit, right?
Yeah.
So,
But and what's cool about jiu-jitsu is there's, I mean, I know guys who have trained for way less than me that have a higher rank than me, but aren't better than me. So everybody, I guess this is true in life. It's entirely your own journey. Don't worry about people, especially like white belt. I think well, this guy got a stripe and he got 2 stripes, and I think, listen, fuck all that. Have fun and enjoy it. Like, enjoy the process. And you should enjoy getting your ass kicked, because it's how you learn. Like, genuinely how you learn. If you're not getting your ass kicked, you're probably rolling with the wrong people. Like,
right.
It's
I mean, to be honest, same thing with strongman. I think one of the reasons I've ended up doing so well, I mean, yeah, I work really hard, but for 8 years of training, I was always the smallest guy in the gym. I trained with 3 heavyweights and a couple pros, and I was always the smallest guy. So every time I was there, I was trying to keep up with them on something.
Yeah.
At some point, compete with them at anywhere that I could and just hang with them. And it forced me, if you're the biggest guy in the room, strongest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, just exactly what you've said, Des, if you think about taking 8 years to get to the level you're at now, like, there's no reason why if you put that same amount of work ethic into jiu-jitsu in 8 years, I mean, you could be a black belt in 8 years. If you do that and you train for maybe 5 times a week, and that's what you're doing, you could do. If you're only training 3 times a week, then maybe I'll take you 12 years. But then don't even worry about getting to the black belt level. Just go and have fun.
Right.
And one of the coolest things that I found was when I got to, I'd been training for a funny story actually. I broke ribs and I didn't get my blue belt when I should have. So I was a year late getting my blue belt. But once I got to like 4 strikes in my white belt, I was so obsessed with then getting a blue belt. I really wasn't trying to improve my jiu-jitsu. It was just get a blue belt, get a blue belt, get a blue belt. And then once I got the blue belt, it was like shackles came off again. You went, oh, now I can just go and have fun. And then just went and had fun. And like, jiu-jitsu is so much fun. Like, never lose sight of the fact that you're never going to make a living at jiu-jitsu, right?
Right.
So just go and have fun doing it. Like, just enjoy it. It's you know what I mean. It's not like it's different to a lot of sports that way, where it's kind of loose and you just enjoy it, man. Like, it's so much fun, and it's such a good thing to do at any age. Whatever age you get into it, it's awesome.
Yeah, and what's more fun than sending your friend over the Rainbow Bridge?
And if nothing else, you get to wear brightly coloured spandex and wrestle and sweat with your friends. And who doesn't love doing that, right?
Exactly. Hey, plus I've got a little girl. She's 8 years old, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I want to be big and strong and scare the shit out of some boys when they come over here. And they start coming over and coming around in the next 8 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very, very relaxing feeling when you go out someplace and you look at guys and you go, yeah, he's big and he doesn't move well. I could probably drop for a single leg and he wouldn't know what. It's so fucking cool to walk into a shop. It's just a very nice feeling to go, I could fuck you up. This is one of the things I've laughed at this so many times, like, because I've done some triathlons and marathons and stuff, and I'm not built. Like, I'm 5'11.5", and at the minute, like, 100 kilos, 102 kilos, probably quite chubby at that. It should probably be 90 kilos really. But I've been starting to like marathons and looking at these guys, and they're all like looking at me like I'm fucking Godzilla, and it's funny looking at them. I'm just going, I could murder every one of you right now, and there's nothing you can do. And that's like, I'm going to finish last. I could out deadlift you, and I could murder you if I wanted to, and that keeps it balanced. Like, that's like what keeps it. Then we're even, you little fuck.
I always big and strong. Yeah, man. Oh. I used to run back. Not anymore, man. I do enough cardio to keep just cardio for basic health, but I hate it probably because I'm like 260.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight to move around about for a long time. But yeah, it's I'm sick in the sense that I have to keep challenging myself to do something.
Sure.
Like if I failed. So the Keltman Triathlon, I should find out on Monday if it's going to happen this year in Scotland. But I don't think it will, because there's still loads of restrictions here. But it's 3.4 kilometre swim in a Scottish loch, which is usually single figures temperatures, and then it's 200 kilometre cycle through the Highlands where there's always a headwind, and then there's a marathon over Munros. So I failed it last time. Partly because I forgot to wear padded shorts and my asshole was on fire, and I was just too heavy. There was a combination of those two things. Now it would be super easy just to go, fuck it, man, I'm just not doing that again. But there's that you're going to have the same. I know you will. Is this? I can't let that lie. I can't just say I just didn't do it.
Oh, I understand, man. I've done it. Dude, I did one marathon in my life just to say I did it. Now, I was about 170 pounds when I did it. I will never do it again. Now, I love the idea of saying I did it.
Yeah.
And if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely just suck it up for one miserable time and just get it done. I mean, I do bodybuilding at some point. I like performance, so I hate the idea of losing strength, but just the sheer discipline required and maybe a break on my joints a little bit. I thought about doing it simply because I think it'd be hard. Like, I just want to do it once. And I may love it and do it again, or I may be like, that was the dumbest thing I ever did, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. I think somebody posted them. I don't think they're new. I think they're old pictures, but somebody posted them today that I seen them on Facebook or something. Was Terry Hollands? He did a bodybuilding show. I think it was last year. He maybe done it, and he was shredded.
Yeah.
And I think he just did it for himself. He
did. And to get help again, it actually helped him. And that's what I thought might help me too, is, when you're training for performance, you often develop a lot of imbalances. If you train for aesthetics, you have to be balanced. So if I have some professional coach looking at me and going, hey, man, your quads are 3 times the size of your hamstrings and this, that, and the other. And so we spend maybe 6 to 9 months balancing things out proportionally. That's going to make me healthier when I return to strength.
Yeah.
I think Terry did that for his own personal health because it was getting out of hand. But now he's returned to strongman as a master's athlete, and he's pushing some of his best numbers he's ever did.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something to be said for that. So
yeah, definitely. It's quite funny that, because I remember when I first started getting away from amateur boxing, and I was working with I was actually going to see a physio because I had loads of issues at the time. It was all banged up, and one of the problems was shoulders, and I had real problem with mobility in shoulders. I like you're saying, a front squat, I have to cross arms. I can't do this. And one of the things was, because I'd stood like this for so long, like everything was all over the place, and it was very, very difficult to kind of try and get that back to a place where I could kind of be flexible in my shoulders, because you've done this one stupid thing for so long that your body's just going, I fucking don't know what this is.
And I can't back squat in a low bar position. I can't get my shoulders back. I have to, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Go into a monolift and be like one of those old fat dudes who just puts his hands all the way out on the plates because I can't bend. My wife's a massage therapist, so she's always working on me. Every time she works on me, she's like, you are made of steel mesh. She's like, you're supposed to have 30 more degrees of flexibility. I'm like, well, that's all I got.
That must be no, I was going to say that must be real nice to have somebody who can give you a rub down in the house, but she probably gets fed up with you asking for it, right?
Well, to be honest, she doesn't right now. She's super into it, so she likes practicing. Maybe eventually when she's super busy, she's like, make an appointment.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What's the film? Is it Goodfellas? The fuck you pay me.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that's actually annoyed me the most is I know, I don't know about you, but I know when I need to get everything loosened off is I can feel the tension in my ass. That's when I know I can feel it. You know, when you touch something, you go, oh, I need this released. But, yeah, we can't see anybody just now. Super annoying.
For me, it's always my shoulders. I tend to just come forward big time. And I have a trouble just sitting upright, maintaining a good posture. Like, all right, we gotta get stuff worked on here.
Yeah, this is when you know you're starting to get old, when you just slouching is like that's going to cost me. That's going to cost me a week in the gym.
I'm not even that old. I turned 34 in April, but I still, put myself under a lot of stress. My body's been beat.
Yeah. Now I've said this to Ali before in the gym, and I'm sure you've had days like this as well. I've been lying on the couch or something, or lying in bed and going, I think I have to go to a doctor. That something has to be seriously wrong with me. And then you go, okay, I'm 36 and I've done 12 training sessions this week and worked a full-time job. You go, that's what's wrong with you. Like you're
under recovering.
A lot of mechanical load, and just a lot of, you forget. Have you found yet? I felt like, I don't know how Ali felt about this, but I felt about 32. Like I could still train brutally hard. I couldn't do that 2 days in a row. Have you found any of that yet?
Well, I guess it depends on your diet and nutrition. I think I'll tell you this. I know that now all these things have to be in line or I'm fucked. If I'm smart about it, I mean, I did 2 days yesterday and it wasn't really wise. I slept like shit last night. Absolute shit. I track everything on my watch. I've got a Garmin watch, and my sleep was terrible, and I could tell that because I had a really high heart rate, feeling kind of crampy and achy. And so if I'm smart and I'm making sure that I get my cardio in, like I said, to be honest, jiu-jitsu has actually helped me. A lot of times when I feel like shit, I feel better after I move. But yeah, if I'm not, I'm saying when I was 20, 25, I could just go into the gym like every day and go balls out with no care in the world, barely warming up. Now, no. If I do that 2 days in a row, if I do that one day, I'm going to be fucked. So I would say now, like I just have to be super intentional and everything's got to be on point. Right? If my diet takes a dump and I didn't really get to eat because I was super busy one day and I ate one big meal, it's not going to be enough, man. It's not enough for what I'm doing. So I'm going to feel I try, and usually hurting something or just whatever. So
I think that's the big difference, isn't it? It's knowing how and when. Because like you were saying, I did sports sciences at uni. So when I was a 21-year-old, university student, I was jacking Burger King 6 times a week. I was drinking booze 9 days a week. And then rolling into the gym the next morning at 6 a.m. and doing a workout, and then heading to class, doing all the lectures, heading straight out again that night for parties, sleeping 3 hours in 4 days, and just getting by on sheer Red Bull adrenaline and Burger King. And if I did that now, I would die of a heart attack. There's no two ways about it. My heart would explode in my chest.
Now, isn't it funny where you get all the things that were like your worst nightmare as a teen or college student are now like your dream. Like, you can't go out tonight and you have to stay in and you have to go to bed by 8. I'm like, yes. I'm in bed by 8. Like,
I've had not just now, obviously not the last year, but I've had like friends message me not that long ago when we were allowed to go out like 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. Like, fuck it, man. Do you want to go to the pub for a few pints? Like, do you want me to put jeans on at 8 p.m.? Are you insane?
That's mad. It's when you're coming home from the pub at the time you used to go out that you're done and dusted.
Oh yeah. My wife and I say that all the time. Like, we are so lame. We're like heading home. Like, well, it's 7 o'clock. We better get home soon.
Oh man, I can remember being in Spain and all these party places. And it's like midnight, drinking on the balcony from like fucking all day basically, and then really getting serious about your drinking at 9 o'clock at night, and then midnight like let's go out. And it's like nowadays, like somebody like I am asleep usually this time. Like we are now like 25 past 10. I should be in bed by now. Like I'll be asleep.
Big for y'all.
Like it's funny. It's usually the things you used to, your worst nightmare when you're a kid. Now you're like, yes,
Yeah, no, I'm awake at 10 o'clock. That's not happening. It's only 5 here.
You've got nothing to do on Sunday. Like, oh, thank fuck. I can just do nothing.
Exactly.
A day of nothing. That sounds perfect.
My goal in life.
Exactly. Now I know I think we've been going for quite a while now, like an hour and 20 minutes. I know you've got the family hostage in that other room, and I don't want them to. I don't want them to hate us, so we'll probably let you cut free, man, and let you get to them and chill out for the night. But yeah,
I could talk your ear off for another hour and a half or so, but yeah, I probably should let them out of the room.
Let's
do it back on.
Let's do it again at some point. In fact, when did you say you're going to Russia?
I go to Russia in 3 weeks, so March 30th through April 6th.
Okay, cool.
Very end of April, I've got the other competition. So
yeah, let's maybe after you've got these couple of competitions out, man, we'll speak to you again, get you back on, and have another hour and a half. That'll be good fun. But yeah, it was a good fun conversation.
Just before we wind up fully, Anthony, we always do this for all our guests, but do you want to shout any of your social medias or anything that we can send some people your way, and we'll tag it in the video and our notes when we release this as well?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is on Instagram. I have a Facebook, but I'm barely on it. So Instagram is Anthony105K Pro Strongman. That's where I post all my shenanigans and occasional random funny memes and whatever other nonsense I feel like posting. So you guys can catch me over there.
Awesome. We'll add that in. So let's start winding this down. As I say, we're heading on to 10:30 here, and you need to get back to the kids. But genuinely, Anthony, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, I'll make a public apology for getting the dates wrong, and greatly appreciate as well you sliding this one back by an hour as well, so we could get this organised. But it's been a good episode. We've really enjoyed it. So thank you for coming on. Best luck to your wife as well in our massage business that she's setting up. Hope that all sets up well. So, and good luck for your competitions that are coming up, and hope you enjoy Siberia.
Yeah, well, enjoy is relative. So,
cool. Well, episode 59 of the Silly Goose Gang podcast with Anthony Diehl, America's strongest man, is done and dusted.
The Silly Goose Gang podcast.